Hey team, on today's podcast episode, we're going to talk about the 5 things holding most consultancy owners back. So what we see out there in the industry at the moment is lots of consultancy owners are running around doing a whole bunch of things that they think is going to grow their business. But today, Doron and I are going to unpack the 5 things that are holding most consultancy owners back. So welcoming Doron onto the podcast. He's one of our coaches in Boardroom. Welcome, mate.
Thank you.
All right, let's get going. Cool. So the first thing we see, or the first of the 5, consultancy owners acting like technicians, not business owners. So I guess we coach, we've coached over 150 business owners in the consulting, like engineering and built environment space. Most got into their business because they love the technical work, they love solving a problem, they love doing the reports and the drawings, that sort of stuff. Just love to hear your thoughts on what you think holds owners back from like stepping into the pure business owner role while they love being in the technician role. Yeah, love your take.
I think a lot of owners get a lot of confidence and validation by being technically great. And it takes a real shift to move into like the commercial architects of the business.
Yeah.
And you've got to really make a decision to make that shift.
Yeah. And how, I guess like you've coached half our members, like you're a very prominent boarder, and like, how do they make that shift from your point of view? Like, do they go, is it hiring? Is it an identity thing? Like, what do they need to do to kind of elevate from self-worth tied to technical identity and technical greatness to letting other people do the work so they can shift into the entrepreneur?
I actually think a lot of it has got to do with pure dopamine.
Right.
Like they get a real kick out of being great technically, and they have been doing that for years and years. They've got to make a decision to want to get a real kick out of growing their business and trusting that if they're going to give up that technical work to somebody else for a while, they might find this new satisfaction in this new role. And yet seeing how that can all grow.
And I guess that's, I actually love that. I've never thought about that angle before in terms of the dopamine kick, but I guess there's also the identity piece too, in terms of, self-worth being tied to doing a great report and technically being amazing for their clients, to then shifting self-worth to my business can get results for our clients. I don't have to do the work. My team are capable, confident. I can invest in the team, but my self-worth is now tied to leading and growing the business and training the team so that they can then do great technical work for our clients.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So the second thing we're going to talk about, or the second thing we're going to cover is pipeline. In terms of, I guess you look at like consultancy owners and you do have that like feast and famine approach in terms of, 1 month's up, they like the consultancy owner goes out and hunts for a bunch of work. They find the work, then like they're the ones that have to deliver the work. So they get busy doing the do. Focus drops off BD, and then they look up in 3 months' time. They're like, crap, the pipeline's gone. I guess, what are some things that consultancy owners can do to kind of underpin that BD element? Like, how can they build a system that doesn't rely on them to grow the consultancy?
Well, I think first of all, them realizing that that system needs to be a permanent fixture in their business, which is hard because, as you said, they get really busy for the next 4 months doing a couple of projects and they get involved in that. And then 3 weeks before it ends, they're like, uh-oh, what are we going to do? So number one, insisting on a regular system is super important. And that's going to start with like really knowing your niche, really knowing your clients, really knowing what position you want to have in the market, and then developing a system where you're going to have regular outreach, regardless of how busy you are week to week.
Yep.
Because without that kind of discipline, it's just a matter of time before you're going to all of a sudden change the ebbs and the flows, So you want that consistency.
Yep. And I guess it's about the founder learning how to do that system themselves first. So like we teach in Boardroom, what we call sell by chat on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn messages to generate leads and opportunities, LinkedIn chats, messaging, connection requests. You've obviously then got phone calls and reach outs and that sort of thing. So, really getting started, the founder needs to own all of that themselves so they understand the process, what's working, what's not. But then, then it's about, it's the whole replacement ladder. It's buying back time, going, I can't continue to do this myself. I need to hire admin support or a virtual assistant or something like that to run that process for them so that they can then focus on other things in the business as well.
Yeah. And you're right. It's very copy pastable once you've really worked out how to do that yourself, systemizing it so you can give it to somebody else to do, and then letting them run with it for a while.
Yeah.
And it's just about doing reps yourself and then giving someone else a chance to do reps.
Yeah, 100%. So you're building that like foundation layer in your business so that it's your pipeline isn't patchy. You've got good repeat work coming in because you've built a system that someone else can run that's doing daily connection requests, daily messages, daily reach out calls, follow up with fee proposals and lots of stuff so that you can have confidence that your pipeline's not going to be patchy. It's going to be good, consistent growth.
Yeah, for sure. And there's nothing more satisfying than noticing all this background work just popping up opportunities every now and then. But you have to be cloud seeding all the time, possibly in a few different channels. Once that consistently runs, there's a whole level of stress that disappears from you.
100%. Love it. All right. So point number 3, profit. Let's talk about, because there's some easy wins that consultancy owners can have when it comes to profit. Like, I think revenue can be a vanity metric in terms of always wanting to grow, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think there's easy wins for consultancy owners. If your margins are in single digits or they're, in the teens, instead of focusing on revenue growth, let's focus on profit. Like if you're running a 2 or 3 million per year consultancy at 6% profit or 12% net profit, there's easy wins there in terms of like, well, if we can get that to a 20% or 25% net profit, you don't need a bigger team. You don't need more work. Um, you've got more margin coming in. So that's better dividends and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, from your point of view, what are some easy wins or some things that consultancy owners can do to lift margin?
Oh, well, first of all, knowing really clearly or being really aware about where that margin can erode over time, because you start off your quote with your 30% and
Yeah,
that looks great on paper and it can quietly erode without you realizing why. So, yeah, we should talk about how you can increase your margin, but we also have to really talk about how to protect the margin that you had in the first place.
cool.
And that means being very disciplined and saying, where it, let me track things during the project, because of course you can't improve anything unless you're measuring it. So metrics obviously matter. And if you're really tracking that, you can say, okay, where did things go wrong last project? Why did we start at 30 and end at 18, 12, 9%, -3? What
Yeah,
happened? So yeah, tracking that's super important. And it often erodes quietly. You don't realize it because you're busy doing the project. So bottom line there is tracking and observing and spending that time reviewing afterwards.
yeah,
In terms of what you can do to boost margin, there's opportunities in variations, isn't there?
yep, 100%. Yeah, like variations is an interesting one because we're consultancy owners are inherently, we've all got people pleasing traits within us. We don't want to like, if a client calls a senior designer and they're like, oh, hey, can you just add that extra retaining wall in while you're doing the design? Everyone's like, I just want to please the client. And it starts with you as the consultancy owner to feed that through to your team. If the client calls and it's a variation, raise that with me so I can capture it early. Quick email, hey, client, thanks for chatting to the senior designer. That's a bit of a variation. Here's our quote. Because if you just do it for free or we'll just add it in, right? Like your margins go from 30% on quoted work to all the extra little things that the clients add in. Very quickly, you can get to single digits when it's just an easy, like quick email. Hey, that's a variation. How would you like us to deal with that? Those kind of words. And the clients, you know, if they're a good client, they'll be like, yeah, absolutely happy to pay the extra 10 grand or whatever.
Mm.
And that's how you keep your margin intact for sure.
Yeah. Why do you reckon so many businesses are so happy to, do scope creep for free?
Definitely the people pleaser. Definitely don't want to rock the boat. Like as an industry, we're very nice people. We don't want clients to go, oh, you're always just variation hungry, or you're always seeking variations and that sort of stuff. I think sometimes too, we think it's a way to please our clients in terms of like, oh, I'll just do you a freebie or a favor so that you give me more work. What actually happens is clients are sophisticated. They know they're asking for a variation. Like they're not idiots. They weren't born yesterday. They know they'll try it on, and if they get it, part of them's like, sweet, I got I got free work. But a bigger part of them is like they actually start to lose respect for their consultants. So a bigger part of them is like, like that was an opportunity for you to put your hand up and say that's a variation. you kind of missed out on that. I'm starting to lose respect for you as a consultant. So I think we think we're trying to please our clients and keep the relationship happy, but we're actually losing respect with our clients.
Yeah, it's a big mindset shift, isn't it?
Totally.
And the more you have successful projects, the more you stand your ground, the more you realize it's actually in your best interest to do so for that ongoing relationship. Um, and that's really hard, I think, at the start of the journey for a new business owner to shift from it's an imposter syndrome thing a little bit,
Totally.
am I here? Can I deliver this thing? I'm lucky to have got the job, and therefore I'm going to accept any kind of scope creep just because I want to keep them happy.
Yep.
Just slowly over time, you're like, no, I want to shift. And then when you develop that confidence, say, I'm going to charge you for my variations, that comes across
Yeah.
to your client, and they're like, fair enough.
Yeah, 100%. So there's heaps of stuff that you can do what consultancy owners can do you're right. There's two angles: protect margins. So that's through monitoring time on projects, monitoring your dollars, all that sort of stuff. And then obviously then protect and lift margins through variations and that sort of stuff, and actually asking for it. All right. Number 4. So let's talk about phases of business, because I think that's a really important thing to touch on. Like, I think under the guise of 5 things that are holding most consultancy owners back, most people think they've got to just continue to grow. And if they have a dip in revenue or they have a plateau in revenue, that something's wrong, or they've got to freak out. Like, I'd love to chat about normalizing the different phases of business. Like, you're growing, you're hiring team, your revenue's going up because you're having a good success with BD and you've got good systems in place for reach out and that sort of stuff. But it's absolutely normal. In fact, I think it's necessary to go through plateau phases where you bed down that growth that you've had in the business, where, you hired a new team, you've got new systems, because what got you to here won't get you to there. So you're bedding down systems and processes and team to prepare for that next phase of growth. So I think, consultancy owners freak out when they have a 3-month patch of like either stalled revenue and sometimes negative growth. But you've got to realize that, growth takes its toll and you can't keep growing. So recognizing that, we're at the end of a growth period now. Cool. We're just going to spend the next 3 to 6 months bedding down systems, processes, training team to then prepare for the next phase of growth. So I guess what have been some challenges you've experienced coaching clients through that? Could touch on mindset and all that sort of stuff too.
I guess the main thing is that, as you say, like what works with a group of 3 falls apart when you've got a group of 8.
Yeah.
And it's all about those systems. So I suppose when it does start to plateau, number 1, not to freak out.
Yeah.
And say this is a natural part of the cycle, as you said. And then say, well, looking forward, if we want to grow bigger, what systems do we need in place in order to make that sustainable?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was having a kickoff call with a client recently, and they're like, you know what? I'm a team of 10 now. I actually just want to bed down. I want to get to 20 staff, but I want to bed down systems now for 20 people. And that showed me just amazing growth mindset. They're thinking about the future. They're like, I've got a goal. This is where I want to go. I want to be 20 people. I'm 10 people now. But I recognize that, again, what got me to here won't get me to there. And I need to work with you, Josh, and the team at Ignite to kind of get everything set up, ready for a 20-person consultancy. So I think if we can think bigger and look at our growth goals as an opportunity to go, cool, how do we set stuff up now for that size business I want to be?
Yeah, for sure. It has to be like planned for the future.
Yep.
Because if it's not, then you're going to end up walking into chaos.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to feel great about the business, actually, to pause and think about where we want to move next, what's it going to take to get there, what assumptions do we need to revisit that we've been using so far that aren't necessarily going to work with new growth? What does my organizational chart look like in 12 months from now based on the new growth that I want? And rather than that being oh no, how are we going to manage this? It's like great, I'm excited for this new blank page reset.
100%. Yeah. So, I think, recognizing that business is a growth of phases, and that, so business is a game of phases: growth, plateau, growth again. And that's totally normal. All right, let's land this plane. So the first thing we want to talk about is the power of having a plan and knowing where you're going. Things can change, that's cool, but I think having a plan, being clear on your 12-month goals, your 3-year goals, your 5-year plan, that sort of stuff, just allows you to be so much more discerning and decisive around opportunities and what to say yes or no to. Like it's a very real thing around decision fatigue in terms of founders and owners can have so many decisions up here in terms of what to say yes to or no to. And having a clear plan, knowing where we want to go, means that like when opportunity comes, people say, hey, do you want to do this? Or client says, hey, can you do work for me? If you know where you're going, if you know what your ideal client is, if you know what your revenue goals are, you can very easily on the moment just say yes or no to that. And you don't create all this lagging decision fatigue. So I think what trips consultancy owners up is not having a clear plan in place. They don't know what their numbers need to be to hit their targets. They don't know what their ideal client is. They don't know even their metrics in terms of like if you want to grow by 30% per year, working that back to how many proposals do we need to submit, all that sort of stuff. So I think not having clarity of a plan and not having clarity in terms of your numbers and all that sort of stuff, it just really compounds to a stressed, worn out founder who's just all over the shop, not knowing what to do next.
Yeah. And I think that the title of it all is working up front is going to save you so much work
Yeah.
down the path. Because if you've got a North Star that you've spent like ages on for a month, then your next 12 months, your next 11 months are going to be so much easier.
Yeah.
The more time you can put into each part of your business, what you want to achieve and how you think it needs to be achieved, and then go to sleep and wake up the next morning and have a chance to process and review it. It's going to be amazing because, as you said, come the middle of the year, you've got so many projects you're running, so many teams, you've got your personal tiredness as well. Every decision can be so fatiguing unless you've got your North Star to go back to. So you give yourself that plan up front, then you're doing great. And if you don't give yourself your plan, you're asking for chaos and exhaustion, and that's just emotionally too hard. And you're trying to do so much at the same time.
Yeah. And it's okay to change, but just have a plan. Like put something in place. These are my 12-month goals. These are my 3-year goals. These are clients I want to work with. This is stuff that I want to do with the team, and just review it every quarter and just go, how am I going? Am I on track? Redo your 90-day game plan. Just allows that. Just you're right. Like it's doing hard work once a quarter, or the big picture thinking once a quarter, and then you're like, cool, I can execute this plan now, and I'll check in a month or 2 months time. And it just allows you to just say yes or no to those opportunities that come up so much more easier because you're so clear on where you're going.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
It's over time you just learn the wisdom of that energy, which seemed like a lot in the middle of the year to go back to, saves you so much more energy down the path.
100%.
So it's moving from micro to macro every now and then for your own energy sustainability.
Love it.
Mm.
Love it. Thank you, sir. That's been a lot of fun. So we're recording this live at our quarterly client event, called Intensives. We catch up 3 times a year in person with our clients to kind of map out business, get them clear on their quarterly goals, and just have fun with a bunch of other cool business owners. So if you're curious about Boardroom, just send us an email or send me a message with the word interested. We'll reach out, have a chat, and love to have you as part of Boardroom.